Thank you so very much, and thank you for having me. It's good to be back. I hope everyone can hear me well. I want to say thank you, a big shout out, first of all, to the Secretariat, which is I've tested and seen that they are working like a real organized democratic institution. They have principles, they have approaches which they conduct business, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having the Bank of Anbazonia to come do this presentation. So on behalf of the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Bank of Anbazonia, who is not here but has delegated me to speak on his behalf and on behalf of the board. There's some noise. I hope you can figure it out. Thank you so much. Okay, so I will be very brief. I hope I should be able to say what I need to say in under 7 minutes and give you some time if you have some questions and clarifications, which I will be happy to provide. So the first thing is, what are the misconceptions around this conference? I want to start with the misconceptions. I think there are two. The first one is that, let me probably stop sharing the screen so that you see my face clearly. The first of the misconception is that the Bank of Anbazonia is trying to launch an amber currency, was giving them the mandate to do that. On whose behalf are they doing it? So let me be very clear that the conference or the Bank of Anbazonia, for that matter, not only this conference, is not trying to launch an amber currency. Maybe communication there may be miscommunication in that. And sometimes also when we're trying to catch the attention of the public, you know what journalists do, they would put something there to get people's attention. But so let's be clear, the Bank of Anbazonia is not in the process of launching an amber currency. So number one. Number two, is the Bank of Anbazonia trying to spearhead an international revolution to cause French-speaking African countries to exit the CFA franc zone? Again, that's a misconception, and I will show you that that is not exactly true. The Bank of Anbazonia doesn't have the resources to do that. It doesn't have what it takes to kill that giant called the CFA. So let's be very clear. So what are we trying to do? The philosophy is simple. And the comrade actor just mentioned it, but I'll re-emphasize it, re-echo it. The philosophy of this conference is that Ambazonian independence, which we all believe will happen, with or without us, Ambazonian independence entails independence on the monetary and economic front also. That's just the simple philosophy of the conference. This independence that we are fighting for and which we will get, it will happen with or without us. I know one thing, I'm paraphrasing Martin Luther King Jr., that I may not get there with you, but I know that we as a people will get to the promised land. You know, so this independence, I pray and I hope every Ambazonian is hoping that that independence is not just going to be political independence, but it will also be monetary and economic independence. Why? Because there are some countries in Africa who claim that they are independent, and they have been for more than 60 years, but they do not have monetary and economic independence. And you know their fate, you know how they look like. They're in a terrible shape. I'm talking about the former French, Portuguese, Spanish countries that have all aligned themselves under the CFA franc zone. Luckily for the former British colonies, they achieved not just political independence, but also monetary and economic independence. Then the question might be, okay, so if it's the Francophone countries that have that problem, how does that concern us? I've heard some Ambazonians push back. How does that concern us? How is that our business? If it is the Francophone countries, let me be very pragmatic of us. It concerns us. And nobody should be lying to himself. Many of you are still using the CFA franc. Why can we be lying so much like this? It is very factual. We're still using the CFA franc. And even on the day we get independence, the next day we will still use the CFA franc. Let's be very frank about that. You know, so the discussion about how we really get off this shackle is very important, not only at time T when the independence happened, but also it is very important to have that conversation now. And I'm answering another question that I've heard from some respected Ambazonian who think that this conversation should not even take place. It is lawful for Ambazonians to be even be talking about that. And everything in my body, all the economics that I know in my body received a terrible shock. I nearly went into a heart attack when I heard that. So here's the answer to that concern, that why should even Ambazonians waste their time? Why should we be distracted talking about an the prospect of an Ambazonian currency? Why should we not just focus our attention on funding the boys on the ground, in the bushes? And, why are we trying to get distracted? The answer is simple. The people who are investing in this intellectual exercise, by the way, it's an intellectual exercise. These people are not holding guns, so they are not the ones dropping the guns to go do this. The boys in the bushes have not been enlisted in this conversation. So there's no distraction. There is no distraction at all. In fact, everybody's supposed to be doing what they are specialized in, what they have expertise in. We have left for so long, left the intellectuals, the intelligentsia in Anbazonia. We've left them out. We've left them out. And don't get me wrong, the boys in the bushes, they are responsible for why the battle is still going on, the struggle is still going on. They have their place. They will always have their place. The people who are giving the money to fund that, they have their place. But why don't also allow the other people also have their place? Everybody should have their place. So let's involve the Southern Cameroonian intelligentsia. They are there. They have something to contribute, which is in their natural skill and expertise, but they are not giving the room at all. Because everybody wants them to hold a gun. Everybody must hold a gun and do a zero transfer to contribute. It must not necessarily be so. So that's the idea here. So this conference is going to really engage Ambazonian experts. It's going to engage Ambazonian experts, people in the intelligentsia. And I was very pleased when I could discover that, we have so many South Ambazonians and Southern Cameroonians who have terrible expertise, well respected in the international community, in intelligentsia, and that they have accepted to come start talking about these things. This is a big win for Anbazonia. Big win for Anbazonia. Our revolution has remained in the hands of, I will not describe them, but you all know what I'm trying to talk about. It has been in the hands of, people who make it all look like a joke, big joke, really. And my final point before I start take any questions is that the act of state building, nation building is very difficult. Look at our French-speaking Francophone country brothers, our neighbors. They have been independent, I don't know how many years now, so-called independent. Is it more than 60 years? They are not even able to think about their own currency, about their own monetary independence. Now, when people are looking at us, we are trying to calm you. And I thank God South Sudan just did something 2 weeks ago, very remarkable. And I will not distract myself by going into that conversation. But South Sudan, a newly independent country, well, quote unquote, they have been there for at least 10 years now. But they are also thinking now more seriously, not just they have their own currency, but how they can delink themselves from the slavery of the dollar, So they are going very far ahead. But what is happening with the French-speaking countries? They are not able to think of an alternative. They know that system is not working. In fact, being in the CFA zone is almost like you're running a marathon with a refrigerator on your back. Being in a CFA zone, that kind of monetary arrangement, and hoping that you achieve development for your people, lift them out of poverty, is similar to running a marathon with a refrigerator on your back. It's not possible. Nobody has done that. But why are they not able to even think about an alternative? So when people look at that, the people in international community, when they look at that, they see an impossible task of nation building that these countries have been struggling with for more than 60 years. They can't even figure it out. Then when they look at us talk, we talk only about our history, You know, people are tired of that history, if you know. They don't want to hear that history. What they want to hear from you is, do you have a path towards the future? You have a path really towards the future. So this is what part of this conversation is about, showing the path towards the future. We know we've been great in the past, injustice in the past, but we know where we're going, what we'll be doing. And here are the first steps we'll be doing, and this is how we'll be doing. So we are trying to show and prove to ourselves that we have the expertise to do it. And when you come to that conference and you hear, I pray, I thank God, we have so many great people there who will challenge us. In fact, what I've heard them about, I've interviewed each of the speakers one-on-one, and what I've heard is very good for Anbazonia, my friends. It's very, very good. In fact, they have some nuggets that they're going to give us. They're not going to lay out all the detailed plan, because people in Washington, D.C., 18th Street will be listening, you know, no, and they are good at sabotaging things. So we'll not unveil everything in there, but they'll give us a framework, some things that, in fact, what I heard, one of the things that I heard that I must tell you, I was so excited, is that we don't even have to play according to the traditional system. The new global economic world has changed, that we don't have to play by the traditional system that is difficult to play by. There's another way, thanks to the new developments in global international economy. So they would, when you hear them, I'm sure many Ambazonians are going to be excited to jump back into this fight, whether it is in contributing money to your counties, to the groups that are, they are coming to energize us, to give us more hope about what we are trying to fight for. And that's not what we ask them to do. We ask them to answer economic questions, but what I hear they are planning to say is really good for us, our struggle, because they are showing us that there's even hope for what we are trying to do, hope that we did not know. So as a round up, before giving the microphone back to you, Secretariat, I was just also going to point out, to just show the speakers that are lined up for this conference. And of course, in the chat room, there is a link for those who want to register to be in the Zoom room, where you'll be able to ask questions. Remember, if you watch on and Town Hall will be streaming this live, and ACBC and other, but in those other channels, you will not have the opportunity to engage with the speakers. You want to be in the Zoom room, in the webinar room, so you need to register. So those are the speakers. Professor Mbako, you all know. I don't know of any Southern Carolinian economist who has achieved as much as this man. Dr. Ali is currently the top international global macroeconomist, and he's very feared, very, very feared at the World Bank, at the UNDP, or anywhere he has been. They fear him like, like poison. He will come here and speak to us. We also hope to hear from a Burkinabe economist who is also providing guidance to the current government on how they should navigate the problems that they are facing. And Professor Mervyn Ayogo, who is a Nigerian and also somebody who is suffering problems that Southern Carolinians are suffering. You might know from the name. He has a lot to tell us about how we don't really have to depend on the international system that is the way the system is currently. He has strategies of navigating the international system that new countries that are in formation need to hear. Of course, our own Ambazonian economies, I'm so glad to hear and to see women who are willing to stake their career to come talk about these things. Professor Nkwele had published a lot on the CFA. So this is her zone. Same with Dr. Ami, and of course, our very own Herman. And so, yeah, so that's what I have for you. And I may just pause there and see if I have any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Julius Agbor. That is very, very interesting. At the end of this town hall, we are going to segment this section and send to you if you want to use it for further publicity. We are against time, but at least if anybody has one or two questions, we will just pray our next guest, Dr. Fidelis Atiancho, who is already in-house, to just give Professor Agbor a minute or two if there are one or two questions. If anybody has a question for Professor Julius Agbor, please just raise your hand if you have a question. before he leaves us. And while you are on, Professor Julius, I would just like to clarify to our people, our next town hall while you're on is on the 18th of March, and we have spoken behind you, and Professor Herman Dofo and myself have had some exchanges so that the town hall would just beam this conference. And as you've said, those who want to ask questions will just have to register to be on the webinar on the webinar platform. And then those who are here, but we really encourage people to be at this webinar so that you never know what would come on, that people want to have this interactive space with you. But we thank you for coming, and we are going to do our part on the end of the town hall to promote what we think is a very, very important topic for our people. So thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.